All right, we are live. Hooray! Hello, everyone, and welcome to another broadcast of the Big Reach broadcast. We're coming to you live from Boston, and I have a special guest today, and we're going to talk a lot about how do you keep people once you have attracted them. This is the specialty of our guest. Her name is Anita Toth. She's calling in all the way from Canada, which, as a fellow Canadian, is one of my favorite places in the world. And so just say hello and welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Brad. And I had no idea that you're a fellow Canadian. I'm actually located just outside Toronto, Ontario. So if you're familiar with Toronto, just outside of it. Love living here.
That's great. Well, yeah, I actually have kinfolk in Toronto area. And my family's actually originally from Nova Scotia, which is where I went to university back in the day. But I have, I don't know how many cousins, and all of my cousins' children. They're all hanging out in Toronto still. So
awesome.
I get up there every now and then. But let's just kind of check in with our subject today, which I'm really intrigued with because I know that a lot of us in business, we do so much work and we have so much time put in to attracting new people. And in fact, most people, when they think about, what should I be spending my attention on? What should I, do, when I get up in the morning, pay the most attention to? The answer is usually, how do I get some new people to come in the door? And there's all this stuff, like everything you see all across the internet and online and on Facebook and everywhere is like, how to get your first 10,000 fans on Instagram, or how to attract this, kind of huge thing to come in to your funnel, or how to build a funnel that, will take all these people through and convert them into customers. But this is not the thing that you focus on. Your thing is really about, okay, so we've got some people. How is it, what do we do to keep them happy and to keep them with us, and so that we can work with these folks over a longer period of time. So the question for you first of all is just how did you? I imagine this is not where you started. So how did you go from what you used to do to what you're doing now?
Okay, yeah, I can answer that question. Before I do, I'm just going to throw this little tidbit out for people to think about, and that is it costs 6 to 7 times more money to acquire a new customer than it does to keep an existing one. So if you want to know why this discussion is so important, that is it. And I just wanted to say that, Brad, that 6 to 7 times more money to acquire a new customer than to keep one you have. So I will switch now and tell you I actually have a background. I was a research coordinator in a university research institute for 14 years. Government funding actually gave me a layoff and gave me the opportunity to finally jump into my own business. And like a lot of people, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I've had many pivots. I've actually built 4 businesses, so this is my 4th business. And I really came at this in 2 ways. One is I had a gentleman who approached me on LinkedIn and saw something in me and said, you really need to work with this particular group of people. He says, I see a real need out there for somebody who is like you that can really help this group. And it was specifically around introverted folks in business. On the other side, I have my qualitative research skill set. So for anyone who doesn't know what qualitative research is, it's kind of the why behind the hard numbers. So if you've ever answered a survey or taken a questionnaire, a quiz, where there's any open-ended questions, where somebody's asked you, what did you think of X? And there's a box and you either type in your answer or you speak your answer. I take that data and then I help companies understand what the patterns that they're seeing in the data, then make decisions on it. Now, I've just chosen to look at keeping your customers longer. I specifically look at what's called customer churn. So these are people who have left your business and find out why did they leave, because the information there is so valuable. And what most people don't realize is the data you gather there, Brad, is what you take back and put into your marketing, or you change your program or your product, your service, whatever it is, so that people will want to stay longer. So that is specifically where I focus, and just right before people are ready to leave. There's always some signs that they're getting ready to leave your business. It's how do you identify those signs so that you can keep them longer and not have to spend 6 or 7 times more to acquire a new one to replace that customer who just left.
Okay, so this is way cool, and I have a whole bunch of things I want to ask you about this. But first, there was something that you mentioned that you kind of just slid over, which was that when this guy approached you from LinkedIn, the first thing that he said to you was, you need to be talking to introverts. So was that because he recognized something in you that was on the introvert end of the spectrum?
No, I am anything but an introvert.
Okay.
He's introverted. And
okay.
So what he did, his name's Anthony English, and he is amazing at going through people's profiles and reaching out to them in such a way that it's so conversational. It was so easy. And because of him, he saw something in my profile. He likes to call me an open book. To him, he reached out and said, I think you should look at these types of folks. And so I do work primarily with software as a service companies. They're kind of my main focus, but I also work with other companies as well, because every company has the issue of customers leaving. Mm-hmm. So that's why he suggested I work with our SaaS companies, and I love it. I'm forever indebted to Anthony, so a little shout out to him right now.
Great, awesome. So, all right. So let's just say that I'm noticing that I have a lot of customers or clients that are running out the door, and I want to know why. So after they've left, like they're gone, how would I know? Like, can I go knocking on the door and say, hey, why did you leave? I'm brokenhearted. I mean, what are the techniques that you see people doing that actually gets them the information that they want?
Yeah. So one of the first things, Brad, I got to clear this up. Going after someone and saying, why did you leave? We'll massage that into something a little more general or a little more approachable, because the word why often gets people's backs up. So one of the key things is kind of putting it back on you and saying, what could we have done better to help you to stay? Where did we fail you? And when you take it that way, their defenses drop. Mm-hmm. And so they're much more likely to then answer the question versus sending an email and saying, so why did you leave why did you leave our business? But before that, it's a mindset shift in realizing that if you can look at it in a way, again, that how did we not live up to either your expectations or a product or service didn't do it? How can we make this better? Mm-hmm. Let's reach out to this group of people. And generally, the best time to do it is immediately after they've left. So, not 6 months down the road, although you can. It gets really hard, and often people don't remember. Our memories aren't that great. But, reach out to them the next day or even sooner than that if you have an automated email system, and ask them, what could we have done better? And if you want, as a follow-up question, what could we do differently so that you would want to come back? What are those things that you are seeking? And when you approach this way, it can be through email or even a pop-up message if they're canceling, if that's the type of business you have, or just good old reaching out by a phone call. Mm-hmm. Call them up, but always, always, always come from a place of wanting to know how you could have made things better for them.
Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, I just, a number of the people that I work with have a membership community. And having people drop out of that community is a really common thing.
Yep.
For one reason or other, people decide, okay, I'm done, or I've had enough, or it's just time for me to go. And so I think this would be extremely useful for all of the folks who are, setting up membership type programs where people are subscribing on a monthly basis to be members. And then I'm wondering, in addition to that, everybody has an email list, which is another form of subscription. And so the conventional wisdom that I've been hearing on an email list is that you kind of almost welcome the people who are dropping off. And the attitude is, well, if they dropped off, then they just weren't the right kind of person, and you should just let them go and be happy that they're gone. And so I just wondered, what's your take on that? It sounds like maybe not. Like maybe we should at least try to find out why they left, or find out what we could have done better that might actually keep them, subscribing.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like having a closed door and just assuming you know what's behind it when you really have no idea. And I think you've framed it correctly. Find out, reach out. You don't have to reach out to every single person. But if you had somebody, let's say, who was on your email list for 2 years, and they suddenly stopped, you've seen that they've bought your programs, your services, and all of a sudden they drop off, I would say that customer, their lifetime value is pretty big. Reach out and find out what happened, what changed. What changed that you were buying our programs? And sometimes, you're right, there are people who are going to leave because perhaps their businesses has changed focus, or they no longer need that product or service, or something happened in their personal life. There's that churn that's inevitable. So some people are just going to leave. There's nothing you can do about it, and that's due to circumstance. But let me tell you, that's actually a very small amount compared to the amount of customers you have who are wanting to leave or have left that you can do something about. And it's often things like the value is no longer there. They're not getting the value out of the product or service or email that they once did, the membership group. And that's the whole point. Well, what are those other ors? And there's usually 2 to 3 really big ones that you will start seeing over and over and over. But the only way you can find that out to confirm it is by asking. Right. And just then, if you have an automated system, as soon as they, hit unsubscribe, reach out to them. Again, there's always this weighing, right? You can't, if they've unsubscribed from that, but they still have your products, then they've been a customer. It's easier to reach out and find out why they left the email list, and find out if there's some other way that you can entice them to come back. So you're always weighing this, right? You don't want to be too pushy, but at the same time, you want to find out and see if you can serve them better.
Okay, well, so my next question is along the lines of, I'm imagining that, it would be awesome to reach out to people and ask these questions like, what could we do better? Mm-hmm. And if they're responding, that is a really good form of engagement. No matter what they choose to do, whether they come back or not, it's just that's a really good form of engagement. And also, if they left with any kind of ill feeling, that by engaging them in this way, and if they actually engage with you, I know that helps turn around people's attitude about whether they think of you positively or negatively. But I'm wondering about the balance between, so I'm doing this and I'm finding out really good information, which is going to help me improve my service or my product quite a lot. Mm-hmm. It may or may not, how attached should I be to actually getting people to come back? Or should I just be focused on just making things better so that the current community is going to continue to be happy and maybe I'll retain more of them?
Yeah, I think there's, again, you've got to weigh this out. For some types of companies, let's say like the software as a service, sometimes I've even done this where I've gone into a 14-day free trial and maybe I've purchased, and then after a month I'm still, it's not for me, whatever, and I leave. They can contact me and say, why did you leave? And I could say, you know what, it wasn't for me. They can send a prompt saying, well, can you explain a little more? and my business isn't quite big enough for this yet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, guess what? Somebody get a response like that would be perfect for a just very nurture sequence. Every month, every couple months, just reaching out and saying, hey, we've added this that perhaps better business now if there's new products or features coming out. And in a case like that, I would say it's very useful. If it's a membership community and people have left, I would, again, reach out and see. And judging by the answer they give, you have to decide, okay, is it worth pursuing just, again, casually over the next little while to see if you can entice them back? And if you can't, then let it go. But I think the best way to specifically answer your question is go into this with the mindset of we're not going to get anybody back. And if we do, it is a bonus versus expecting to get people back and then getting frustrated when you're not hitting those particular numbers.
Right.
So I find it, if you can let go of the outcome of it, which would be I need to get 10 customers back or whatever it is, it takes a lot of pressure off. And not only that, it kind of comes through in how you approach them and the dialogue that you're having with them.
Right. Yeah, cool. So could you just give us a little story, talk about some example where somebody was seeing a lot of people leaking through the sieve, and then they started doing things where they turned things around, and what the result was?
Yeah, so there's, again, mostly coming from software as a service. This is where the majority of my examples come from. But a lot of them, the customer can just cancel on their own. So they don't need to talk to somebody, and it's not the same as a client relationship where they might have a contract or something like that. So a lot of these companies, it's just month to month or an annual contract. And so there was one company in particular that they got a 71% decrease in customer churn by asking people when they were canceling, why they were canceling.
Mm-hmm.
And so by getting them at that crucial point, these are people who have taken an action to say, I don't want to do this anymore. They came in, and right on the heels of that was, can you just tell us a little bit why? Then and if your team is big enough, having customer support reach out with a quick phone call and saying, again, what could we do to make your experience better? Where are we failing you? What is missing that would make this a really valuable service? And that's how they did it. And 71% is huge.
Yeah.
Like that, again, if you think 6 to 7 times more to acquire a customer,
right,
you do the math on whatever your business is, and that is massive. So again, it's timing, and that is the perfect time to do it, and it's the approach. Done with how could we have done things better by you?
Yeah. Well, it seems really clear. I mean, this is especially in any kind of model where you have repeat buyers, like people are subscribing to a regular thing, and there's not necessarily any end. Like they could be with you for many years to come. So putting a lot of effort there, that's going to keep your business thriving, I would think, if you can maintain good relationships with that entire customer base.
Yeah. And the other thing, Brad, and you just hit on it, and that was good relationships with that customer base. The other thing is identifying who that top 20% is, your best of the best of the best customers, and making sure you give them extra special attention. Treat them well, because they have already stepped forward. They've paid with their money. They've paid with time, how long they've been with you. Keep them really, and then find out how they're different from the other 80%. So that when other people like them come into your pipeline or into your community, you can identify them and again start tailoring things more to them, so then they stay longer.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, some of this reminds me, this was quite a while ago, and I don't know where you'd be able to find this right now, if it's on YouTube or not, but I saw this video done by HubSpot. And this was a video that people received automatically whenever they unsubscribed.
Yeah.
And it came, it was a video that came in an email. And what it was very amusing. I mean, the guy on camera was talking as if he was talking to a girlfriend who had just broken up with him.
I saw that.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
It was hilarious. It was totally brilliant. And at the very least, it would put a smile on the face of every single unsubscriber. And yes. I don't know anything about the data of how that video performed or what they got as a result of that, but it just was completely brilliant way to reach out to people who are on their way. And I wonder if you have seen other examples of, video used in this kind of way in terms of, customer retention.
I'm trying to think of a recent example. I haven't seen HubSpot, and I know the video you're talking about. That was several years ago now that I saw it. But I've seen ones where they're static photos of like a team of people, and they're all same thing, like looking sad that you're leaving. But you've hit on a really important point, is that often people think like that mentality around the subscriber list, just let them go. They weren't good fit anyway, or whatever the mentality is. But bear in mind that they are the ones who are the word of mouth.
Right.
They can either be a champion or someone who will speak either neutrally against your business, which is not great, or negatively about your business. There were some stats, the White House put them out several years ago, that people who are disappointed will talk to 9 to 15 people specifically about that experience. And if they're really ticked off,
right.
It goes up to 23 people.
Yeah.
Now, we know how important trust is. We know how important referrals are. Like, how many times with pieces of software have I gone into community and they've said, who's used this software? And then all of a sudden you see a whole bunch of negative, reviews, and you were just thinking of getting that.
Yep.
Well, no thanks. Nope. Yep. I guess I'm going to go look elsewhere. I think that's where people don't take their thinking far enough and go, holy crap, this is more than they just left. If they left, like you said, with a negative feeling, they're going to tell other people. So HubSpot, even though, again, maybe your inevitable churn, your business has changed, you don't need the software anymore, or even if you had a disappointing experience, you're right, that little bit of humor might just be enough to move from negative to neutral, which is better in that case,
right.
Or neutral to positive. So if you can even focus, get people there, like, that's a huge boost to your business, because it's so hard to measure the impact of word of mouth, but we all know how critical it is. And every single one of us has at least a couple of examples where you were thinking of buying a service or a product, and you talk to somebody you really trust and they go, ooh, I wouldn't go near that. Then you decide against it. You haven't even tried it out for yourself, but just based on their word of mouth. And that's the key piece that people never think about. They never think about the damage of just letting people slide with negative feelings right out of their business.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, if you're not helping the story that's being told about your company, a whole bunch of other people are going to be telling your story for you.
You've got it.
And you want to at least be in the conversation, at least partially. Yeah. And that's just... Yeah, I mean, this is so interesting, because I just believe that this, and you know way more about this than I do, but it just seems like this is an area that a lot of people just completely don't have very much on their radar. And
it's not sexy. That's why. I'll tell you, essentially what I do is like the marriage counselor. There are problems. People are just ready to get divorced. It's almost what it's like, right? Versus you think of even, dating apps and all the different things around dating, and it can be fun and exciting. Well, we're talking about now the ring's been put on the finger, or a commitment has been made. They're now a paying customer. And then you just sort of forget about all of those things you did to bring them in, right?
Yep.
And you're right. It's not as sexy. It's not as fun. And I think that's why people have have overlooked this. The companies, though, that are really successful have put their focus on customer success. They want to see their customers the most they can while they're, have this relationship with them. And so it's a hard shift in mindset. If you're really focused on leads and traffic and tactics and how can we get more people in, by nature, your back is going to be turned to the people you already have a relationship with because you're focused in that direction. So there's a real mindset shift, and not every company can do it, and not every company wants to, and that's okay. But for companies who go, you know what? I know I've been so focused, especially when you're first growing, been so focused on acquisition. What small things can I do right now to help, maintain my customers more? And would you like me to give just a couple examples as we I know we're wrapping up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. Give us where do we start and what are the first two things to do?
So one of the first things is that mindset shift, and start asking, start having a conversation with your customers. So if you have an email list, don't fire, I hate it when companies, 12 different questions of a survey of how well we're doing. Just ask one question. Maybe send it out, as part of your email. So it's not just coming out of nowhere and just standalone. Just send something out that says, what is the your favorite feature of blank, if it's a particular product or service? If you could change one thing to make it better, what would it be? And then you can ask them, could you elaborate? Or could you tell us a bit more? Could you explain why? And then what you're doing is slowly getting a dialogue going. You talked about engagement of lists. This is how you do it. You ask a question and it becomes just part of the dialogue that you're having. They respond, you look at the answers, and you know what the best part is to really increase engagement quickly and build even stronger relationships? Can you guess it? Probably not. I know, this is tough. Okay. This is a total no-brainer. When I say it, you'll be like, duh, of course. But yet again, even someone had to teach it to me because I didn't know. In your next email, tell people what the responses were. 94% of you said this.
Okay.
12% of you said this. We had a few really interesting comments like this. And I cannot tell you, people always want to know how they stand relative to other people.
Yep.
So this is just so easy. And then because you're developing this relationship over a longer period of time, you're automatically reducing your customer churn because you're kind of keeping on top of things throughout the whole process.
Cool. All right. That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to do this in my next email. So anybody who's listening, if you're on my email list, you can expect at least one question.
Yay! And then you are going to follow up with the answers, right? Or
yes,
at least
right. And then I'll follow up and I'll let you all know how the responses were. I got it.
Awesome. I love it.
So,
I love it.
So if anybody wants to get your help doing all of this, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
You know what? Since this is also being broadcast on LinkedIn, reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, that is the easiest. My website is just being fixed up right now, so you can you can and can't there. Just send me a PM or personal message, direct message, whatever you call it, on LinkedIn, and yeah, let's get a conversation started.
Cool. Awesome. Great. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and you guys who are watching this, stay tuned. Next week, I'm going to do a very special broadcast with a brand new guest. It's so exciting. And that's it. We are signing off always on Wednesday at noontime Eastern time, whatever time that is for you. This is the Big Reach broadcast. And thank you guys so much for joining. So long.
Take care. Bye.